Good morning, viewers, and welcome to yet another great episode of Women Now. Today we have some great topics on the show. We're going to start off with President Barack Obama's visit to India. And then later on in the show, we have some forecasts for mortgage and real estate in 2015 with Roger Bakshi. It is going to be a great show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back, viewers. Now we're going to talk about a very significant meeting of world's two most popular leaders of today. Yes, President Barack Obama and Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi, the largest and the oldest democracy head. And our lovely host Samanjana has the scoop because she's a political correspondent and has all inroads into what happened there and what's actually changed ever since the visit.
Well, it's been exciting. I mean, the whole world has been observing what's going on right now. And it's just been like, what, 4 months? Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was here in the United States last September. And then he invited the US President Barack Obama to be the chief guest of honor for the India's Republic Day parade. And there he was, and the First Lady. And, you know, it was exciting because for the first time, we have come to some kind of agreements. You know, there were these bilateral treaties and trade agreements and nuclear energy. Then the most important thing was, of course, the US President's pledge to invest about $2 billion in renewable energy in India, which is kind of a really big step towards the climate change and all that more, because India for the longest time they had this whole thing about foreign policy, which was like following this middle path that is neither here nor there. But for the first time, we have some really good work showing.
I think the nuclear energy and the renewable energy is a good one.
Yeah,
and what's most fascinating about this whole thing is that someone who was perceived a chaiwala is now deciding nuclear energy status between US and India.
It's a real,
that blew me. And
it's a dream story.
You can't go past thinking that how nothing is impossible in the world, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, you had a take on aftermath of the visit and the whole religious comment that he apparently made about India being non-tolerant, and I know we've got many views on that. And we'd love to think India is not non-tolerant, and President Obama made a mistake and we want him to apologize and all of that, but he ain't doing that. And I think he's right in what he said. But what's your take on it?
I don't think he's, I don't think he was far off the mark. That's my opinion. I think that the remark was intended to expose what we as Indians don't like to talk about, and that is the intolerance. And that is the intolerance that just goes on the level of religion, and maybe also beyond that too. And maybe he was trying to not attack them, but he was trying to say like, hey, there's minorities, there's the issues with the LGBT community, there's women, the whole thing with issues with women in India. I think it goes beyond just that. You have to read between the lines. He's a smart man. He knows what he's talking about. And I think that as Indians, one thing we always like to do is we always like to, and this is true for all of us, I think, that we always like to glamorize India and say that, oh, we don't have problems and everything is hunky-dory. And we're the oldest democracy, we have the oldest religion, and therefore we don't have problems. But I think that within the coexistence of all the religions and the cultures that is still there is a lot of intolerance. And I think that him speaking about this really forces everybody to take a look at it as a possible issue. And rather than brushing it under the cover and saying, oh, we don't have a problem, it says, hey, we do have a problem, and there's problems in all sort of stairs and levels of society that we have. Let's do something about it.
I don't know how she was quiet all this time, because
I know she's
I witnessed some fights before we started talking, because we were like, hey, what are we talking about? And she was so passionate about the fact that India is the most tolerant, religiously tolerant country, and you had some facts to even explain that.
Absolutely. Well, allow me to disagree with you, Manish, because I totally think that India is one of the most tolerant countries in the world. Just look at our history. I mean, it was like, what, 633 AD when the Zoroastrians came and settled in India. We are the ones who've been patronizing Dalai Lama and fighting against the Tibetan onslaughts. We are the ones who gave refuge to Taslima Nasreen when she got a fatwa from the Bangladeshi government. If you just look at the population, see, there is on one side, there is this whole perception, and then you look into, you dig deep and you look at the people and look at the mindset, and I think it it gives a completely different picture. I'll give you an example. Like during the onset of partition, right, in 1947, I mean, millions of Hindus were slaughtered by the Muslim community, and there was this large-scale genocide. In spite of that, today, India shelters, I mean, the second largest, number of Muslim population here in India, after Indonesia, and the Muslim people, they enjoy full democracy living in India. So that talks volumes about religious tolerance. Look at our heroes, Shah Rukh Khan. People don't look at his religious affiliation.
So, I think you just stated some exceptions, and exceptions don't usually prove a norm. And as far back as I can remember, growing up in Calcutta, there's a huge Muslim community just in the middle of the city. And I remember our parents and many other people, all they taught the little ones was to not mix with the Muslim community or get married to them ever. And they were considered like some aliens from somewhere else. And I just hated that, because I did like some of the friends from that community. And from then, I believe that the feeling of intermingling with the other community is not there as much as it's here in this country. And I have closest friends, Muslims married to Indians, and I don't see that happening in India. Although I'd love to believe what you said, and I think that is the idea, but is it in reality?
Inherently, if you look at the civilization of India, there were 8 religions that kind of evolved in that subcontinent, and we have, it's been a civilization of immense tolerance and gratitude, I would say. If you just look at India and the United States and this whole religiosity factor, you see India with a 1.2 billion population, the 30% of it is they follow some other religion than Hinduism, whereas here in the United States, it's less than 5%. It's actually 4%, that consists of non-Christian population, and there is about, I think, 18% who are atheist or agnostics fall in that category.
That may have a lot to do with the newness of this country.
It's a young nation.
It's a lot younger. But I do want to say one thing, that instead of condemning President Obama for making that statement, I think we should take cues from that and understand why the perception is such around the world. And I think he spoke for most Americans who perceive India to be still very religiously split, I would say, and non-tolerant. And living over here for more than 20 years, I get to believe and feel what they think also. The point is to not react to what he said, but to take steps as to what we can do to improve the perception, and perhaps teach more about being singular, being spread out towards our religious, and being accepting of that.
Perception is wrong to begin with, you see.
Perceptions are never wrong. More about some of the other treaties and some of the other friendships and relationships that developed just out of this visit.
Yes, of course. I mean, the whole bilateral trade talks, the DTTI, and Prime Minister Modi's whole motion and execution of the Make in India project, that kind of resonate with manufacturing for the defense economy, and all that is kind of exciting and very optimistic for India.
One of the most favorite pics of this entire trip was when they were leaving and they did the namaste, and we're going to do that right now before we leave you for our messages. And Manish, what is coming up next?
We'll be back with some real estate news and forecast for 2015 with Roger Bakshi. So don't move a muscle. We'll be right back. Namaste.
Namaste.
Watch latest updates about real estate, financing, and everything else you need to know about your home with me, Kajal Shahani, only on WomenNow TV. The real estate market and the mortgage industry have gone through so many changes in the past couple of years. In the past 3 years, we've had a huge increase in real estate home prices. Are you wondering what 2015 is going to bring to us? That is exactly what we'll talk about with broker, owner, CEO of Calcos Financial, Roger Bakshi. Happy New Year, Roger. How have you been?
Oh, I've been great. Happy New Year to you as well as to all the viewers who are watching us on this show.
Thank you so much. So 2014 was a banner year for real estate in the Bay Area. We are so excited to talk to Roger Bakshi today as to what to expect in 2015. Roger Bakshi, as you guys know, is the broker, owner, and CEO of Calcos Financial, and we're here to see what he thinks 2015 is going to bring to us in regards to interest rates. What are the mortgage rates looking like in 2015?
2015 is going to be more or less same like 2014, which was a banner year.
Which is great.
Real estate grew by more than 25-30% in some sectors, and the rates were all-time low. And the amazing thing is that starting January of this year, the rates have further dropped, which is a good news for first-time home buyers and also people who want to refinance and lower the payments.
Right.
So all in all the trends and all the financial numbers which are coming out is indicating that 2015 will be pretty good as 2014.
Absolutely. And give us an example. I know rates change on a daily basis, but what's a 30-year conventional loan under 625? What can someone expect for a 30-year fixed mortgage right now, interest rate?
So Kajal, in 2014, the rates had gone down to like 3.75, 3.875. Now these, of course, were for the loans which were below 417.
Right. And
from 417 to 625, as you know, are high balance conventional loans or confirming loans.
Right.
Those were like 4%, 4.125 APR, which are all-time low rates. But this year, January, I noticed that the rates dropped by another quarter point.
Right.
So the high balance we have locked at 3.75 and 3.875.
Wow.
Of course, depending on the loan to value and the credit of the borrowers,
right.
all those things come into consideration when we quote the rates.
Right. So of course, in the Bay Area, the affordability has risen not only with higher income for borrowers, but also lower interest rates, which is amazing. So when you couple those two together, the prices obviously go higher. So in the Bay Area, depending on the city, prices have risen double digit in 2014. What do you see in 2015 in regards to interest rates and prices?
So interest rates are related to the real estate,
yes.
And the low interest rates always help the real estate market,
right.
Because as a result of low interest rates, people's payments are a lot lower.
Right.
So of course they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So with the rates being so low, and they'll continue through 2015, with some exceptions, if there is some other crisis or anything of that nature, who knows what might happen. But under normal circumstances, in the new environment, I think the rates will be pretty low.
Okay, good. And for first-time home buyers, let's say buyers who want to jump into the market but don't have a healthy down payment, what do you suggest? Are there any FHA programs?
Yeah, as the good news is that FHA this year has reduced their fees. So PMI for FHA used to be 1.32% of the loan amount. So now they have reduced it to 0.85%.
Oh, wow.
Which is over 0.5%.
Right.
So that's really super news for people who want to take a FHA loan. And FHA loan, Kajal, as you know, are designed for first-time home buyers. Who can get a loan with 3.5% down payment as a minimum, and the entire down payment can be a gift from the relative.
Oh wow, and what do they need to show the gift?
But the gift has to come from the relative.
Okay.
So let's say if mom and dad want to help out the kids in buying the first home, they can sign a letter saying that they are gifting that amount of 3.5% to the kids for the purchase of the house.
Right.
And the other thing which is very beneficial for FHA loan is that the debt ratios can be as high as 50%.
Oh wow.
So that's another very important benefit for having FHA loan.
Right.
So a lot of people who don't have seasoned funds or saved up money for the down payment can surely go FHA loan. FHA, the only thing is that the loan amount has to be at 625 and below.
Okay. So in the Bay Area for $625,000, Roger and I have seen that you can't get perhaps a large home, etc., but condos, townhouses, absolutely. I, as a realtor, have worked with a lot of FHA buyers who have gotten into a condominium or a townhouse with 3.5% down, which has been great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So one thing you had mentioned was their debt ratio can be all the way up to 50%. Just explain a debt ratio.
So debt ratio is that, let's say if somebody is making a $1,000 income, the total mortgage payment, which includes the principal and interest payment, property taxes, and the FHA PMI, should not be more than 50%, should not be more than $500 in this case.
Okay, got it.
So 50% of the gross income.
Right.
The gross income is before taxes.
Okay.
So that gives them more leeway in qualifying for the loan.
Right. So that way, Roger can tell you your affordability based on your debt ratio, so you don't buy a home where perhaps you can't afford it, etc. So that's a good margin. So these days, how are lenders underwriting loans? I know that's always been a challenge, and back in 2010, 2011, when the mortgage crisis happened, the underwriting guidelines were perhaps a little lax. Now, I think it's the opposite, but please explain what they're looking at.
Yeah, that's true. And the main reason for underwriting getting more lax in the last like a year or so is because the property values are going up and up now.
Right, so there's value.
And you know the lenders use the house as a collateral.
Right.
So in 2008, as you know, the pendulum had sprung to the other extreme where the underwriting became extremely hard.
Right.
And everybody could not qualify for a loan. They had to have a pristine credit, good income, and good assets. Only then that person could get a loan.
Right.
But in the last like year or so, the underwriting has become very flexible.
Yeah.
So in this environment, they will still check your income and your credit and the money you have saved up as a down payment, but overall the guidelines have improved quite a bit.
Okay, good. That is some breathing room for our first-time home buyers. One thing in the Bay Area I've noticed as a realtor, and I'm sure all of our residents notice, that 1 out of 4 homeowners and renters, their rent equals 50% of what they bring home. Like we were talking about the debt ratio. So with such high rents and people trying to get into the market, how do they save up for down payment? Any advice? We did talk about the 3.5% FHA, which is excellent, but besides getting a gift from a family member, not everybody has that. So what else can they do to save up for down payment?
So first of all, before buying the house, so they have to see what kind of income they have or how much they can qualify for. To do that, they will have to sit with the lender and go over the numbers, how much is their income, how much they can qualify for, what the loan parameters are. Because each loan is different, each borrower is different. Somebody putting 20% down will have a more loan qualifying amount versus somebody who's putting 3.5% down. So it varies from person to person. So first step would be that they have to see how the credit is, what kind of income they have, because buying a home is a big commitment.
It's a big commitment, yeah.
It's not only coming up with the down payment, but they have to be very comfortable with the ongoing monthly payment. Along with the monthly payment, they have to pay property taxes, they have to pay insurance. So all that adds up. So I would recommend first step would be to sit with the loan officer and see how much loan they can qualify for. And they have to have a good credit. That's very important.
And good stable credit as well as good stable work history, right?
That's true, yeah. Because underwriter is going to look at their 2 years history, what kind of income they have generated, what kind of credit they have. So all that comes into play when they apply for a home loan.
Okay, perfect. Recently I was talking to Roger about how in the Bay Area we have a lot of high producing income borrowers. So even a first-time buyer can qualify all the way up to perhaps $1 million, 1.1. I've seen that all the time. And Roger introduced me to a product that they've been doing lately with a little bit of a less down payment for those high-priced homes and borrowers. Explain that to us.
So Kajal, as you know, I mean, in this market environment, I mean, 625 up to 625, you cannot buy a single family house. Of course, depending on the location. So now what has happened is that's a really good news for people who don't have 20% down payment. But with this new loan program, they can go up to 1.5 million purchase price, and they can get a loan with 10% down. And we can break that loan into 2 parts. first and the second
Right.
to avoid the PMI.
Okay.
Because PMI, as you know, you don't get a tax break on that.
Right.
And that can be a significant amount.
Yeah.
Whereas the interest you pay on your second loan would be fully tax deductible.
Okay, wow.
So this really offers a first-time home buyer or people who are upgrading themselves.
Right.
Let's say they're selling a condo or a townhome and they're buying a much bigger home up to say 1.5 million. Those folks can get a loan with 10% down. And the rates are relatively very low.
Yeah.
I mean, those rates first for 7/1 ARM, you're looking at like low threes.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
On the first.
On the first. And second, of course, is going to be like high fours or low fives.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but still they are very low as compared to 2006.
Right.
And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the rate will be low this year at least.
Yeah.
And so that's a good news.
Wow, excellent. So as Roger said, if you're a borrower and you're qualified up to 1.5, you can buy a home with just 10% down, obviously with good income, good credit, and a good work history, which is amazing. I mentioned that CalCoast Financial has been in the business for 25 years. They've got a very strong reputation in the marketplace, and that helps the buyers get properties, which is very nice.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Roger. We look forward to talking to you next week in regards to perhaps selling your current home and moving up and how to do that seamlessly.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kajal.
Well, that's another great episode of Women Now. We hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to email us at info@womennow.tv with any suggestions you might have for our show. Like us on Facebook, share the news on Twitter, like our YouTube channel. For everybody here at Women Now, we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Have a great one.
Well, viewers, Women Now is celebrating 5 glorious years. Manish, can you believe it?
I can't believe it's already been 5 years.
We have had a great time bringing shows to you, and as always, we have taken the show to the next level, bringing you content that matters to you. Young Living with Sabina, Escapades with Anup, and Chalk Talk with our beautiful guest host who knows so much more than me. So we'll see you every week, 8:30 a.m. on KTSF. Be there.